GM, everybody, and welcome back to the Trading Floor, the thesis-driven show where we pick apart and challenge some of crypto's smartest traders, investors, and builders. I'm Finn Miller, and sitting across from me over in the US of A is Mr. Thomas Bahamas. Thomas, GM, sir.
GM, Finn. I am super excited for today. We've got some great guests, and they're kind of coming at the markets from a couple different angles, is what I think. We got Alex coming on from Nansen. Nansen, is one of the biggest on-chain intelligence platforms in all of crypto, right? So for him to come on, tell us what he's seeing in the markets, I think is just like incredibly important. And then we've also got Swizzle coming on, who has been crushing the trenches lately. He's got his own podcast, his own stream that is fantastic. So I'd love to hear him talk some more about what he's seeing in the trenches, what things are going on. And it's been a really, really big week, right? So I'm excited about where the market is right now. We'll see if that keeps going. And I'm very excited.
A big week indeed. It feels like 2 weeks ago we were sitting here wondering if the bear market was going to drag on until November this year. And then all of a sudden, Donald Trump stepped up to the podium and he said hyperliquid, and all these green candles started raining down upon us. So fantastic to be getting a look at the market from both the intellectual analyst side of Nansen and Alex, and also in the more nitty gritty trenches side from Swizzle, who obviously is an incredibly intellectual and intelligent trader as well. Now, before we open a chart, some quick housekeeping. SolanaFloor is a subsidiary of the Jito network, and we may execute trades on this show through JTX, Jito's self-custodial trading platform. Views and trade theses expressed by our hosts and guests are their own and are presented for informational and entertainment purposes only. Nothing discussed should be considered financial or investment advice, and our hosts and guests may hold assets discussed on the show. For a full range of financial disclosures, please head to the SolanaFloor website, and you can find all things that me and Thomas are holding. So there is no silly business going on there. Now, Thomas, we mentioned it very briefly. A crazy week, and that seems to just be backing it up even further. We've got talks of trillion-dollar buybacks going into treasury yields. The July PCE report has just come through, and it seems like we're heading for another vicious round of inflation. Do you want to tell me what's going on out there over in the US?
Yeah, we were talking a little bit before the stream about what is going on. First of all, Trump said hyperliquid, right? They're trying to bring perps dexes into the US. So I think that's good for basically all traders. That really sent the markets going. But I think the bigger signal out of what's going on is I think they're talking about a lot more like quantitative easing, right? Like we don't know necessarily what they're going to do. They were selling 30-year treasury bonds, and there was rumors that Trump was going to be buying $1 trillion worth. Is that true? We don't know, right? Rumors about that, but I think the general direction of that is going to be the basis for the debasement trade that's happening, right? And crypto always does well when there is some sort of money printing going on, and I think that's the general direction that we're heading. So, crypto was green across the board, right? Immediately after Trump said hyperliquid, I think it pumped 20-30%. If you looked at the charts over the last week, everything went up. We're seeing a little bit of a pullback today, but in my mind, I think that structurally things have changed and people are starting to believe in crypto again. And I think that really is, kind of what we're seeing. I can't even read this tweet that you have up. Do you want to go over that?
Yeah, I really love this tweet from Flood here. He says, the reality is regime changes happen very slowly, then suddenly all at once. The bond market saying, how did you go bankrupt? The US is two ways, gradually and then suddenly. He says, the United States has been insolvent for some time, but this has never mattered until suddenly it does. And that's what we're seeing in the market. We're seeing Bitcoin absolutely ripping. We're seeing gold go on a new tear. It seems like hard assets are back in fashion because nobody has any trust in the dollar itself. So look, great for crypto, not so good for the economy itself, but ultimately, people who have been waiting for some kind of action in the crypto markets are feeling very relieved that that's finally here. And it's happening at the same time as AI stocks are starting to drag. So if you tuned into Solana Weekly News a few weeks back, you would have heard the editor of SolanaFloor, Awais, saying, if you're in AI, pivot to crypto. And he almost nailed it pretty much. It seems like since then, crypto has been going incredibly strong. And I'm hoping that we can continue that momentum, Thomas.
Yeah, 100%. And you look at stocks over the last year, and that's been what people have been trading, right? People are looking for volatility, and they found it with the AI trade, right? I think that now, there is some uneasiness in that market. Can it keep going? People aren't sure, but right now, that volatility is back in all of crypto. So I think the general direction of Awais is correct. But also, AI and crypto can, be synonymous, and they can both move us forward. So I think this is really good for crypto.
Yeah, we are seeing a bit of feebleness in Bitcoin and a lot of other top alts. You know, Bitcoin had popped back over 80K very briefly. Solana also popped back over 100 very briefly. Um, it is a wee bit choppy out there. We did see one massive deleveraging flush over on Saturday, but it was very encouraging to see that all of those dips actually got bid up almost immediately. People were still pouring money into the markets. It tells me that this could be a lockout rally. There's a lot of people who are still sidelined who weren't properly allocated before this move. The risk then is that everybody tries to play catch up with leverage and we end up with more flushes. And I did cross one chart earlier that is kind of pointing to that potential risk. Great chart here from Coinalysis. You can see that dominance by open interest is trending very high. The amount of open interest in others and altcoins that are not Bitcoin and Ethereum is almost as high as the open interest in Bitcoin itself. It says that everybody has just poured on the leverage. Everybody who was caught offside by that move is very desperate to catch up. So I think there's still going to be plenty of chop, maybe, but it's very hard to tell from this position, Thomas.
Yep, 100%. I think we might actually have our first guest here already. Should we go ahead and introduce Alex from Nansen?
Let's bring on Alex from Nansen. So, if anybody wasn't already aware, Nansen is one of the oldest and most reputable data analytics companies in crypto history. They've been there, seen it all. I believe it actually started as an NFT analysis project, but maybe I'm wrong there. Ultimately, Alex, who is the co-founder and CEO of Nansen, has been in crypto markets for a very long time, using Nansen data to navigate markets with exceptional precision. So, very, very excited to speak to Alex. Alex, sir, GM, welcome to the trading floor.
Good morning.
Hey, thanks for having me. Good to be on the show.
Yeah, great to see you again. How you doing this morning?
Yeah, doing great. It's late here in Singapore, but happy to be on the stream.
Yeah,
Appreciate you joining us despite the late hour. Now, Alex, obviously, I mentioned in the intro, you've been watching crypto markets for a long time. Nansen has been analyzing crypto markets for an exceptionally long time. This move that we've seen in the last week or two has caught everybody offside. Was on-chain data, was Nansen kind of pointing to this? Using all the data that you've collected recently, what are you seeing in the market right now?
Yeah, I mean, I commented a while back that I thought Bitcoin would never go below $60,000 again. And it looks like I'm in the money on that prediction now. But of course, who knows what happens in the future. I think you're right that this is something that caught most people off guard. It's not something you could really see on chain because it was driven, like you said, by political forces. And so I think there's a little bit of a amplification going on with some short sellers that got squeezed, which kind of made the whole move a bit more explosive. But besides that, I mean, frankly, when Trump says hyperliquid, it's hard not to get bullish, right?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, what a call to not see 60K or below Bitcoin again. And I
well,
mean,
let's see, right? We have many years where that prediction has to stand, but yeah.
Yeah, so far it's a great call. But I mean, with what you're seeing, are you primarily looking at on-chain, or are you looking at basically everything that's going on in the crypto markets? Or are you looking at Bitcoin flows as well?
Yeah, so I mean, personally, I'm really interested in what happens on the other layer one chains, right? So if you think of Solana, if you think of Hyperliquid, even chains like Tron, Ethereum, and then layer twos like Base and so on. And you can see quite clearly that after this recent move, activity has picked up on several chains. If you look at Solana, for example, you see more active addresses in the last week than you've seen in a while. And so that's exciting. I think also, there's, I wouldn't say it's a full kind of meme coin renaissance going on, but there's definitely more interest in coins like Ansem. You see Pump having a pretty strong move up again, which is exciting. And maybe what I would say also is that it seems like this thesis of next generation trading products becoming really popular is playing out. Obviously, we have our own trading product that a lot of people enjoy using, but of course you have FOMO, you have Pump, and so on that are kind of leading the charge when it comes to bringing retail traders on chain. So I think that's another thing that's going to be really interesting for this upcoming cycle. How a lot of people are going to be trading on chain for the first time maybe even sidestepping or bypassing the whole centralized exchange user experience that's been common in the past.
Yeah,
Do you
no, I
think
I
the world
100%
in which
agree. I mean, you look at FOMO and it's super easy to use, super easy to onboard, and I think it's kind of changed the game, right? I think they set the standard, and other apps are basically looking to match what they're able to do. With that, like,
It's a
how do
great
you,
product. It's a great user experience. Yes,
it
absolutely.
really is. They nailed so many things that were annoying about crypto. And like I see that as being almost like the front face of crypto. Like what's your view on that? Like, do you think people are going to be coming into crypto using FOMO, using pump and buying meme coins, or are they going to be buying the majors?
I mean, yeah, I think they will. I mean, I think that's what's happening right now. If you look at the growth of FOMO, it's tremendous.
Yeah.
I think there's a few different things going on. Obviously, the social trading narrative people really enjoy.
Yeah.
And it kind of makes the whole trading user experience more lively in a way and less kind of static or analytical, if you will. It's a bit more fun. I think the other thing that's going to pick up as not just a narrative, but what we think of as a new way to trade is agentic trading. And so that's really early right now, right? In our product, for example, you can trade conversationally with an agent. You can use our agent to research different tokens and so on and so forth. But I think what's going to become more common in the next months and years is fully autonomous trading, which is not just kind of trading bots that operate on simple rules, but actual agents that are doing inference and using the best AI models out there, you know, consuming all of this data that frankly a lot of us are not that keen to sit around and, you know, look at tables and charts all day. We would probably rather have an agent do a lot of that work for us. So I think that's like the next thing that's going to happen, I think, after social trading is to have agentic trading really take off. But you know, you need the technology to be good enough for it, and I think a lot of us are at the R&D stage, and we're not keen to release products that um, don't necessarily give you a higher chance of winning than if you trade manually. So I think that's another thing that's going to bring a lot of people in, and I've been saying this for a while, but I think that what products like Cursor and obviously Claude Code and Codex have done for programming and coding, we're going to see similar things happen in the agentic trading space, where basically you get more people into trading, just like Cursor got more people into coding. And the people who are already into it are going to go and take their game to the next level. So I think agentic trading is going to be huge. We have some super exciting releases up our sleeves coming out quite soon. And that's probably the number one narrative I'm the most bullish on in the next months and years.
Do you think there's an overlap between people who are going to come by social trading and transact on platforms like FOMO and Pump, and do you think they're going to actually move over to agentic trading, or do you think it's a completely different time and a completely different user base?
It is a great question. We kind of think of these user personas as a little bit different. You have sort of hands-on traders and more hands-off, sort of capital rich but time poor type of traders. And you know, a lot of us are quite busy, but we enjoy trading recreationally, and we believe that there's an edge to be had, but we also don't want to be glued to our screens all day. And so I think that's probably the persona that's going to really like agentic trading, and people who are open-minded about what you can do with AI. I also think, if we're being candid, that, and there's been some, you know, people talking about this on X, I do think a lot of people who come in to a very kind of degen meme coin oriented trading user experience will find that their probability of winning is quite low. And so after some time, maybe they'll start thinking, is there a better way to trade? You know, is this actually the best way I can trade? Does this actually give me the best odds of winning, right? And I think that might be one prompt for people to think, how can I use AI to do this better? And you know, I think that's going to be another catalyst. There's going to be, sadly, a lot of people who are going to lose money because the user experience is so compelling and fun and exciting, but frankly, it's not optimized for winning, in my opinion. And so I think that's the next catalyst that might bring a lot of people into agentic trading. Simply, they want a new way to trade and have better chances of winning.
Yeah, 100%. I feel like it won't take long for them to actually find that. A lot of times you got to kind of pay your tuition to understand what's going on, and then you kind of need to dig into the data. And that actually leaves you guys in like a very good position because you guys have the data, right? I've been a pro subscriber for a while, and basically any token that goes out, any user, any wallet, anything, you can research, you can get as much data as you want on it. And in order to have a profitable agentic trading system, you need that data, right? So basically what you're going to be having is some sort of AI trader that can scan the markets and scan through all of data like yours to figure out where to actually allocate funds, right?
Yes, that's exactly right. And we're kind of climbing what we think of as a trust ladder, where you want to make sure that you have the user in the loop. And I see you have the screen up now. If you do Command E, you can bring up our AI agent on the side there, and you can talk to it about any token, any wallet. You can say, hey, what's Nansen buying right now, and so on and so forth. I think, you might have to sign in separately. You probably don't want to show your password and all that stuff on screen. But the concept of the trust ladder is very simple. The idea here is basically that we want to keep the user in the loop so that the user trusts the agent and the user experience. And then the more you trust the agent, the more you'll be comfortable delegating to the agent. And eventually you get to autonomous trading, right? But we don't want to push people straight to autonomous trading. I don't think that's a good idea for multiple different reasons. But once you've seen how the agent operates, you can see, hey, this thing can actually pull all the data from our API. I don't have to figure out which chart to look at, which table to look at. I can just talk to the agent. Like, what's going on with pump? Who's the top accumulator of pump in the last 3 hours or 24 hours or in the last 15 minutes, right? It could just handle all that stuff for me. And so the current product is a bit like a co-pilot experience where you can talk to the agent and also click around on charts. But I think over time, the agent will become more of a first-class citizen that you work through. And the technology has to get better, obviously, as we are building it out. But also the users need to just trust it more over time, just like a self-driving car, right? Like that's kind of the concept with a self-driving car. You sit in the front, you have your hand on the wheel the first few times, you monitor the screen. What does the vision look like for the Tesla or the BYD or whatever? And eventually you might move to the back seat because you trust the car so much, right? It's the same concept.
Yeah. What's the difference between an agentic strategy that has a high success rate and one that doesn't? Because obviously people have been talking about running agentic models and getting them to trade for a long time. For a lot of people, that's going to ChatGPT or Claude and saying, what should I buy today? For other people, that's pasting in a chart and, giving a bit more analysis. What do you think is the single strongest factor that determines whether the AI spits out a good response or a bad response?
So I think, first of all, we should acknowledge that there's probably no silver bullet here. There's no evergreen trading strategy that will always work, right? I think the thing that's going to increase your chances of success is whether you're firstly able to backtest the agentic strategy very quickly, because that gives you an idea of, would this have worked in the last 7 days, 30 days, 1 year, whatever time period you're looking at. And frankly, the idea should be to kill your worst strategies fast, right? You want to fail fast on agentic strategies. So backtesting, I think, is one thing. The next thing is you probably want to run it in paper trading mode to see, does this idea actually make sense before I put any capital at risk? And so this is more like a meta response to your question. I think it's more about the process than it is about the specific strategy. And the reality is that most retail traders have really not had these tools at their disposal so far. I think now, we're working on something that we actually have an early access waitlist for, where you can run autonomous trading agents and do all these things that I'm talking about. And the exciting thing that's new here, just to kind of make that really explicit, is that in the past, you had basically code, right? Deterministic code that was running some kind of strategy that really limits how, complex and flexible the strategy can be. The thing that's new now is you have literally intelligence on tap, right? Intelligence is a commodity, and you can pipe it right into these agents so they can do all this reasoning on the fly. And so in this product we're building, you can literally write out a strategy in a markdown file, or you can co-create it with an agent to make it really simple. And then your trading agent will execute on that markdown strategy. So we have our own leaderboard internally. I think one of the strategies that has consistently made the most money is capitalizing on funding rates in perps, which is an example of something that is quite complex and sophisticated. Most retail investors wouldn't think of it, but you could just express that to the agent. Hey, I want to create a strategy that capitalizes on funding rates, right? Like, you help me figure out all the stuff around that, but at least then you can backtest that strategy, and you can run it, and you can see whether it works. So again, I think it's very analogous to vibe coding. I think it's going to make trading much more accessible to more people. And I think, frankly, the people who do this are going to have a higher win rate, but that burden is on us to prove over the next months.
I want to play quick devil's advocate here. I pulled up a tweet earlier from Loracle, who was saying that there's never been a better time to start using these tools because retail activity is at all-time high. Everyone has access to agentic trading. Is there ways?
So how is Loracle's P&L looking the last 30 days? I think you could check that in Nansen. I saw him at the bottom of the leaderboard. I don't mean to dunk on him, but yeah. Yes, go ahead.
Maybe the current terms of Loracle's position is not a great example, but ultimately the premise remains the same. Is there ways in which people, not with access to AI models, but is there a way in which these AI models could be corrupted to then start essentially leading these
100%
new traders to be absolutely pillaged on chain or off chain even?
Totally. And this is why, like, I would say I'm not broadly bullish on agentic trading. I'm like specifically bullish on a way to do it correctly. There's going to be so much money lost from people doing agentic trading either poorly or using products and platforms that are not thoughtful about all these threat vectors, right? And you could absolutely imagine agents getting fooled by fake spammy tokens being sent around. If you don't have good filtering for that in your systems, that's an example, right? You've probably seen this. If you track a smart money address, for example, with Nansen, you'll see that scammers will send fake tokens to them, because then they hope that the analytics will reflect that those tokens are being purchased by smart money. So you have to filter that kind of stuff out. That's a very basic example, but agents can be manipulated for sure. And so this is why I think you need to have really good tooling. And I think it is great that people are experimenting with this, and they should actually be dabbling and building stuff themselves. We have a great CLI, an MCP, and an API that people can use as well. If you don't want to use our autonomous agentic trading platform, you want to build something yourself, but you don't want to run the full data platform. And so I would just encourage people to experiment. Obviously, be very cautious with how much funds you're putting in, and be mindful that there are many different ways that this can go wrong.
That sounds good. So with that said, I mean, we want to figure out how we can turn this intelligence into money. And looking at this market today, what would you say is the trade that you're going to be looking at with this market, and how do you kind of get there?
Yeah, it's a good question. I actually asked Nansen AI right before, and the first answer it gave was pump, just pump. And that's that's a very kind of boring, obvious answer in a way, because pump's been doing really well, and a lot of people are excited about pump, and it kind of plays into this thing we literally just talked about, the narrative of on-chain traders coming on. The price action looks fantastic, and we've seen certain smart money addresses buying it. I'm actually, by the way, let me just plug a small new feature that's coming out, which is going to be super cool. We have this new feature called predicted winners. And this is an AI model that attempts to predict which addresses are going to make money in the future. So people might be familiar with smart money in Nansen. It's backwards looking, right? It's like, have these wallets made money in the past? If so, we're going to label them as smart money. I'm looking at an internal version of our product right now, and I'm seeing that the third top trader on Pump is one of the very few addresses that our AI model predicts is going to make money in the future. So, I mean, that seems like a pretty good sign. It doesn't necessarily mean Pump's going to go up, so please be careful if you are putting on a trade here. But Pump, I think it checks a lot of those boxes for what we've talked about, and it's worth checking out in Nansen as well.
That's fantastic.
Quick question
what goes into predicting like who a winner will be, right? Yeah, I would imagine it's probably some proprietary information in there, but when you're looking at that, like I want to figure out if I'm, if it's going to predict me for being a future winning trader or not. Like what's going to go into that?
So the short version is that you have like a ton of behavioral variables where we are basically training an AI model or a machine learning model to predict, whether they're going to be profitable or not. And then we basically evaluate how accurate that model is, and we retrain it every week so that you get a new set of predicted winners every week. It's kind of like an event. I want to make an event of this. Actually, it's like, here are like the 25 addresses you should be monitoring, or the 100 addresses that this model predicts, is going to win. And so, there isn't like a simple explanation on what are the exact variables. We're talking about like, I think probably around 100 different variables, but a lot of different behavioral variables that are correlated in complex ways to outcomes. Now, as with markets generally, there's a lot of noise, right? So it's never going to be 100% accurate. But what we've seen from our internal testing or evaluation and running this for a while now, live in the internal version of the product, is that it does have some predictive power, right? And so the very basic thesis here is that it probably makes sense if an AI model can predict certain behaviors and trading patterns that are correlated with winning in the future, to look at what those addresses are buying, either in aggregate or individually. So that's kind of the basic idea of like why we think this is valuable. I've always had this dream of creating like smart money 2.0, which is forward looking and not just backward looking. So I hope we're going to have this out maybe next week. But it's running literally on my screen in the internal version of the product right now. So I'm pretty excited about it.
Is it telling you what this wallet is going to buy next? Do you have that information?
Oh, that's not yet. But that's it obviously tells you what it has in its wallet right now. And so that's probably the main thing to look at. But maybe that's like smart money 3.0. 3.0 that you just described. Like we should predict what it's going to buy next too. But that I think that's a pretty hard thing to do.
I love it. So so basically we're picking out Pump based on all of the tokens that you're seeing. The flows are coming in. Now I made myself an agentic trading system and it was terrible, right? I spent a couple $100 on compute and I made $20 based on hundreds of trades, right?
Familiar.
Like it was ridiculous. But
sounds familiar.
Yeah, one of the issues that I have is like, okay, so now you know what to buy, right? Like, so it gives you based on a ton of analysis. The Pump token is looking good now. As far as that goes, like, is it going to be giving you levels for where it's going to be trading, or how do you look at execution and like levels that it's going to be looking at from here?
Yeah, we haven't gone that far yet. At the moment, it's just literally telling you like these are the predicted winners, and you can look at what they do, and then we aggregate it, right? So like here's how predicted winners are positioned on this token. Are they long? Are they short? Are they buying it? Are they selling it? But we should probably try to take it that to that point where you think of pricing levels, it's a little bit tricky as well, because like the more prescriptive you get, the more people get the expectation that it's like definitely going to be correct, and markets are inherently, you know, non-deterministic, right? So I think we're trying to find the balance of like, there is signal here, you should go and look at this stuff and obviously do your own research, but this is like a good area to look into, and these are some pointers. Maybe once you start looking at price levels, it starts to get a little bit too close to giving the user the feeling that this is like a sure thing.
Yeah.
With that in mind, I kind of have a general question on where you see, general market trading behaviors going in the future. Because if everybody's using agentic trading, then naturally the markets are going to revert to a very mathematical based, algorithmic based way of playing out. And we'll probably see less emotional driven moves across markets. Do you think that's just the end state? Do you think we become hyper efficient to the point where everything is driven purely by agentic trading? Or do you think that, the human desire to bid something can overpower that?
It's a great question. I often get asked something similar, not exactly the same, on whether agentic trading is going to lead to like all agents trading the same way. And I definitely don't think that's the case. I think arguably trading agents are going to be more diverse than human traders, who are very sheep-like in many situations, as we all know when we think of meme coin trading and that kind of stuff. I would say I think that trading agents are not necessarily going to be fully. I think that I would almost think of them as humans more than I would think of them as bots, because they're doing inference, and the inference has been trained on humans, right, from internet text and that kind of stuff. So fundamentally, there is some kind of human spirit in them. You probably don't have that animal spirit in them that you have in markets that you're kind of alluding to. So it might be less emotional, but as per the point earlier, I think these agents are going to be prone to certain manipulation, and they're going to be fooled by various different things, and so that might create some explosive moves that are going to be different. So I think what I would predict is markets are going to look very different for sure, but I'm not so sure they're going to be. I don't think the right mental model is that they're only going to be this kind of deterministic sort of fixed bots. I think they're going to be quite creative, which we have seen with. I mean, just think about all the insane content that AI can produce now in terms of like videos and audio and images. So there is some kind of creativity, and I don't know if you'd call that emotion, but there's some kind of human-like spirit in these agents that I think might have an interesting translation into markets as well. So I'm actually like really curious what it's going to look like. But I don't think markets are going to get any less fun. I think they're probably going to get more fun with trading agents.
I love
good
that.
answer.
Yeah, I guess like theoretically, the agent should be reflecting, the human views, right? Like it's doing all the research, but at the end of the day, at least the start of the research, somebody's actually going in and kicking that off, right?
Yes, exactly. And I think that is crucial. You want co-creation between the human and the agent. I think that's kind of where the magic happens. And to make sure that you have enough variance, that combination, I think, is going to create lots of different trading engines. Like the three of us are going to come up with very different ideas, I think. And the way we use AI is going to kind of lead to different strategies. The interests we have, the beliefs we have, all these different things. And then if you add to that all the different combinations of models, parameters on the models, obviously different tools and data that the agents can use, I think you're going to get a pretty wild zoo of trading agents. Yeah, so I'm super. To me, it's incredibly exciting because it's like the intersection of the two coolest technologies on Earth, AI and blockchain. So it's going to be like an incredibly dynamic intersection to operate in the next years, I believe.
Indeed. The ceiling is very high on where this goes. But Alex, I do want to put you on the spot here. We've had Pump pitched to us on the show before. Obviously, tremendous asset, does incredibly well. It's up 3x in the past kind of 2 months or so. So it's been on an absolute tear. Has Nansen AI given you any indication on where might be another kind of better place to enter? Because if I cross over to this chat here, there's a lot of liquidations ready to be happen on the short side. If you were someone wanting to, make a trade today, would you say just go into pump now? Would you say let this cool off a wee bit? Obviously, everything here is not financial advice. This is all for purely informational and entertainment purposes only.
It is hard to say. The boring answer would be to dollar cost average into things that you are bullish on long term. And if you have used the pump product and you like trading on it, maybe that's a good indication that you want to own some kind of asset that's associated with it. So I think like maybe the advice I would give, it's a little bit less trading oriented, would be to like check out the product and see what you think about it. And frankly, like that's how I think about Hyperliquid too, which is another asset that generally I'm very bullish on, because I think Hyperliquid is a fantastic product, right? And the same with blockchains like Solana, right? I'm bullish on Sol because I know the product is fundamentally incredibly valuable, has very clear product market fit, is going to be around for a long time. So I kind of like to think of the combination of those two things. I personally am not a huge fan of kind of just jumping into something for like a quick trade. You can do that obviously, and many people are very good at that. But I kind of like the combination of like, this looks pretty bullish in terms of a momentum and what I'm seeing on chain, but I also like the underlying thing that it represents. And in some ways, I think Pump is compelling from that perspective, because I think it kind of checks both of those two boxes potentially.
Yeah, 100%. I think that Pump is probably one of the best products in all of crypto at this point. They've pretty much changed the game for meme coins, and in my mind, it seems like a pretty decent hold, for a bull market cycle where memes are hot, right? Like it seems like the way that people are going to be getting, some sort of access to invest in like the whole of the meme coin economy, and it seems like Pump is one of the best ways to do that.
Exactly. Let me just add one more aspect to this, because I think crypto fundamentally is about community. And when you buy a token, you long the community. And it seems to me that the community around Pump is very durable, in the sense that they have leaders in their community who are just there to win. And personally, I always love to see that, right? And I don't think they're going anywhere, right? And that aspect of a token is something I personally really like. I mean, I was an early buyer of Pudgy Penguins, for example, like, which has that exact community aspect to it, very strong and durable in that sense. Of course, let's not talk about where NFT prices are, but you get the point. And so I think the community aspect is another thing that I like to look at. Similarly with Hyperliquid, similarly with Solana, incredibly strong communities that have gone through difficult times and are very durable and resilient.
I like that. Yeah, I mean, it's a cult, right? Like they pretty much built the trenches, and like they really do have their fingers on the pulse. But that does kind of lead me to another question, right? So like, how are you seeing the flows when it comes to meme coins, right? Is it still dominant on Solana? Because I mean, we're seeing Robinhood, even Base, kind of catch a good run right here, right? Where we haven't really seen another community actually, compete with Sol on memes. Like me personally, for some reason, every Solana meme coin I buy goes to zero. Right. So, from my experience, I just buy Pump and hold it, and that's my Solana meme coin exposure. Like, is that something that you see, or what are the flows telling you on that?
So we added Robinhood support in Nansen a while back, and I'm just kind of looking at the homepage where you can filter by different chains, and I'm sorting by DEX volume. And when I look at sort of the top 20, the 15, 16 of them are Solana based coins, right? So Solana is still king for meme coins, but the other ones I'm seeing are Robinhood coins, right? So I think you're right. There is some kind of growth going on for sure, and this isn't new to people, but you do have meme coins on Robinhood, and there's growth there. But I think it's going to be hard to dethrone Solana on meme coins. And by the way, I just want to say this because a lot of people say that, you know, Solana is only meme coins, which is completely false, and it annoys me. Right? They have so many other things going on, whether it's DeFi or tokenized stocks and a bunch of other things. So, but yeah, so I think Solana is clearly still number one on flows for meme coins. But Robinhood is kind of coming up as like a strong number two as of now.
Competition is good. We often say on the show that steel sharpens steel, and this is what actually makes the end user experience better for everyone. Alex, one last question before we let you get away. Our previous pitcher who came on and suggested pumps pitched it to us at around, I think, 0.0026. His price targets were 4 billion FDV and then 10 billion FDV. If you would be putting a similar price target, would you be aiming at those levels, or do you have something else in mind?
Honestly, like, I have not thought that through enough to give you a good piece of input. I would rather just say I don't know than to give you something that is totally made up on the spot.
Perfect. We like that as well. Let the animal spirits ride. Alex, thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure having you on. And Nansen, obviously such a huge part of crypto history and on-chain trading as the years have gone on. If people want to learn more about Nansen, want to learn more about you and try out the product, where can they go?
Go to Nansen.ai and also check out our mobile app, which is called Nansen AI. You can find it on the Play Store and also on the App Store.
Fantastic. Alex, thank you so much for joining us. We'll let you get back to the Singapore evening.
Thanks, Alex.
Thanks very much.
Really appreciate it. Man,
a lot of alpha share, Thomas Bahamas.
Yeah, that sure is. Nansen is a fantastic platform. Like I can definitely vouch for it. I've been using it for quite a while, and yeah, and a pump. You know, everyone likes pump. It seems like a pretty consensus trade. Like I like it myself, and you know, short term it looks like it's caught a little bit of a top, but how far it goes down, I don't know. I think it's a hold.
It's one of crypto's most performant apps. It's done an incredible job generating revenue, and for a long time, it was just pouring millions into buybacks every single day, and the chart didn't care. And then one day, everybody woke up and they decided that actually capturing the proxy of the meme coin casino was the most effective way to generate returns in this market. Now, speaking of generating returns in this market, we have our incredible next guest on. Swizzle has been absolutely crushing it over in the trenches, and I'm very, very eager to hear about how he's finding his coins, what's guiding his decision making, and how he managed to hold on to coins that are already up so long for such a long time. Thomas, shall we bring him on?
Yes, let's bring on Swizzle. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you guys doing?
Doing great, doing great. Not quite as good as you based on your logging on article, but we're doing good over here.
Sounds good. No, I'm excited to talk markets. It's been a crazy couple of weeks. A lot of nothing happening for a long time, and then all of a sudden, a lot happened in a very short amount of time. So that's crypto for you.
Yeah.
It's been absolutely wild. I don't think anybody expected that kind of move. I don't think anybody expected that Trump was going to say hyperliquid on the podium. With that happening, with every single coin in the market ripping 20 to 40% in the space of, you know, a matter of days, where are you seeing markets right now? Do you think that we just kind of trend sideways and let things settle down for a while? Do you see this as a quick drop back down to lower levels, or do you think this is truly the start of the next bull market?
Yeah, I mean, I wish I had the crystal ball and could tell you guys that. I think the short answer would be I don't know, and I think it would be naive to say with confidence of any type that we would, you know, expect to know what's going to happen. But I think, like, the way I have sort of digested what happened over the past week or two is a great lesson in markets, but in crypto specifically. Like, you know, for all of us who have been around for multiple cycles, it's like if you're constantly trying to speculate on what's happening in the market, you're going to go through spells where you get things right a lot and then you get things wrong. You have these hot streaks and cold streaks, but it tends to teach you, I feel like, the same lessons over and over again. And, you know, we as humans just have short memories and we're emotionally driven. And that can be something in the right conditions that's very powerful. And if you embrace that, it allows you to be successful. But it's also a reminder that whenever you try to play this game of predicting things on a shorter term time horizon, as humans, we're very, very more likely than not to be wrong. Like we're going to be wrong a lot of the time. And so like what happened with Trump and the press conference there, like, you know, the biggest hyperliquid bull in the world would not have been able to predict that that was going to happen, right? And so what you would have seen happening with the hype chart was like, you know, it was a slow bleed, kind of just like a boring chop. And, you know, I think I mentioned it on my article that I wrote, like I had multiple times throughout that where like my conviction wasn't shaken in my position, like nothing had fundamentally changed at all. Other than the fact that it's like I was feeling this human urge to like, I was bored. I saw some people in other parts of the market making higher returns and I wanted a piece of that. And it's like, you have all these things that'll go through your mind, and that's just human psychology. But then when something like that happens, it gives you a reminder that like things can happen very quickly, and catalysts are catalysts for a reason. Like catalysts happen because they're unexpected. You know, like it's something that happens that changes the landscape of how we viewed things before. And so, like, unfortunately, the tough thing to do most of the time, if you want to catch the meat of a move on a catalyst, is you have to pre-position, which usually means sitting in something for durations of time, sometimes a long period of time, where you get outperformed by other parts of the market. Crypto as a whole got outperformed. Even if you're in crypto, there's different pockets where you could have been doing better. But like, you know, historically, these assets move the majority of their moves in short periods of time. And so that's where, like, you know, I go back to what I was writing about in that article is like most of that was pre-positioning, and they were boring holds for a while. But you're either right or you're wrong. And you have to understand like why you're holding something. And then ultimately, like, you can look smart or look like you had this crazy idea, and really it's not that. It's just like, you know, you can be, a lot of people can be right. Do you have the patience and discipline to just like, you know, sit there when it gets boring or when it looks ugly, and, you know, decide if you're really willing to hold on to the position or not. So that's kind of
100%.
my general take. And I'm not an expert on this. You know, I've made so many mistakes due to impatience or lack of discipline over the years. You know, this time I've been right here, and we'll see what happens. But I think, like, you know, there's going to be different traders who want to take short-term, mid-term, long-term time horizons on these things.
Yeah, that's very well said. It is so hard to be just sitting in bleeding positions, especially when you have confidence, but you're seeing all the other charts that people are posting and big wins. But that's also kind of crypto in a nutshell, right? I feel like a lot of times people aren't used to dealing with that, but you know, years of Bitcoin going down for it to just rip 10x or whatever it does. I feel like that's kind of common, and something that we're seeing now is, we've been seeing pumps get sold off, right? Like I feel like we're like short term, like my mind sees a pump and it's like, okay, it might be time to unload. But it does kind of feel like this time is a little bit different, and I don't like, it doesn't necessarily seem like this pump is getting sold off. What's your take on that?
Yeah, I think, like, obviously scenario planning and being ready for both sides is going to be important here.
Yeah.
I think obviously, like, as a whole, the market is going to follow Bitcoin to a certain degree, not entirely, maybe not exactly the way it did before, but we're clearly not out of the woods. Like, I think anyone who's saying, "Oh, we're clearly in a trend shift, we're clearly in a bull market now," I don't think that's like that. There's no way to validate that or confirm that, but you still have to decide. You know, taking no position is a position in itself. Where you allocate is a decision. I think my mindset is like, obviously it helps that on the bulk of my larger positions I was pre-positioned, and so I can stomach some volatility now. But you know, the question is just going to be like, where do you see things, if you're talking about majors, Bitcoin and majors, where do you see things 6 months from now? And like, are you in a position where like you're not overexposed, that you can't handle a drawdown if it comes? Or like, you know, say you missed this move and you're looking for entry, like, you know, panic top blasting may or may not be the right move, depending on things. But again, it's like, you have to, whatever you do, I think right now at this point, you need to be prepared to have a margin of error, that whatever your guess on the next move, are we having a deep correction from this push, or are we not going to settle down at all and keep going up? like be prepared to be wrong on whatever your assumption is, and be willing to adapt, be willing to change. I would expect like some pullback, some retracement, because these were crazy moves that happened, over the past 2 weeks. And so some cool down would probably be healthy. Uh, but I also think like the interesting thing is you look at some of the majors, and actually they don't look overbought as much as the eye would tell you. Like there's a lot to suggest that like, funding data is pretty neutral still right now. It's not like, we're experiencing like, there's not like longs piling in and you're going to have some crazy correction. Like that's not really what the data says right now. But there's a lot of manipulation that can happen here, a lot of volatility that could pop up without any real moves. And so for me, I'm just hanging on to what I have. I was definitely tempted to trim a little bit, and I think what I decided was like, specifically with like Zcash, with Lighter, with some of these, with Pump specifically. I just thought about like if I trim and I sell right now, um, like I'm going to end up wanting to re-enter, because what assets would I be interested in buying if I had no positions right now? I'm sure a lot of people who are sidelined are looking at those and saying, "Damn, I wish I had exposure." Um, so I don't want to trim and sell right now if I think like, okay, I'm just going to end up re-entering and not having as good of an entry. So I'm inclined to kind of hold and maybe let a little volatility play out. And who knows? It could be a fast and quick correction, and you might have very, very little time to act on it. So I don't know. But that's my take on it.
I want to go
Yeah.
back to something you mentioned there briefly. You said you want to be prepared for the instance where you're wrong. In practice, what does that look like? Because something I harp on reasonably often about is that you need to trade the market you have, not the market you want. A lot of people position for the market they want instead of dealing with the cards that are played right in front of them. So what does positioning yourself for even when you're wrong look like? Does that mean keeping more on the side? Does that mean allocating more to certain assets than others? When you think about constructing your portfolio, how do you factor in that need to protect yourself when you're wrong?
Yeah, that's a great question. And man, I wish I had a really good answer for you. I don't, other than probably some of the things that anyone would say, which is like, yeah, like, um, when you're thinking about allocating, do it in tranches, don't do it all at once. That way you can average down or average up depending on what's happening. That'd probably be the main thing. Um, I think the only thing I would say that's like my overall trading philosophy that's probably counter to what I just said is I do believe in concentrated bets. I'm not a big like mass diversification of assets. It's like I would rather concentrate a lot of my positioning into things I have true conviction in, into things that I think have a chance to make outsized returns. And like, I'm willing to be wrong, but I don't want to limit myself by being overly spread thin with a ton of different assets. Generally, like I'll have my few core conviction plays that I'm willing to admit if something goes wrong and changes with the narrative, changes with, like something that's happening in the overall landscape. I'm not too proud to change my stance on something. But that said, I have conviction in the things that I do hold as core positioning, and then I'll maybe take a smaller concentration of my portfolio, and with that, I'll kind of play around and spray and pray and try to find the next thing, and then hopefully you find it, and then you can allocate strong. But I think like breaking things up and kind of like compartmentalizing different percentages of your portfolio for different kind of like mission purposes is kind of like the way I think about it, that in a way helps protect you from being wrong, because you're able to kind of take different bets, but you still want to be, in my opinion, you want to be concentrated in wherever your strongest belief is.
I like that. So, and when you talk about kind of the specific trades that you're making, first of all, one of the things that you said is you don't own any Bitcoin, right? It seems like you have kind of your list for what you are willing to allocate to. You're talking about, you know, the market's going to move based off of Bitcoin, but you're not necessarily allocated to it at all. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, it's probably one of my more polarizing takes, I think, because I think the Bitcoin maximalists will not want to hear that. And you know, when I talk to my TradFi friends and everything, like they think it's crazy. I've been trying to make this argument for like a little over a year with them, and they keep telling me I'm wrong. I'm like, I'm trying to get you guys to understand. To me, like the way I view it is about risk reward, and like ultimately, like there's nothing. It's not that I don't believe in Bitcoin as an asset. I do. I think it will continue to be the leader of this industry, and like everything will move to a certain degree in conjunction with Bitcoin, and we need Bitcoin to be strong and healthy for the asset as a whole to continue to grow and you know prosper. But as a trade, I mean, I just don't think it's asymmetric. Like, what are you, if you're sizing the majority of your portfolio into Bitcoin, you know, there's a world where over a long period of time, yes, it could go up a good amount. But as someone who's actively in the trenches, like actively monitoring markets and trying to have some type of edge, I want the assets that I think in these, you know, pockets of time, call it a 6 to 12 month time horizon, have the ability to outperform Bitcoin. And I think you look at the top altcoins, the top like majors, they do in both directions outperform Bitcoin. They're going to go down more when the market goes down, and they're going to go up more when the market goes up. I think a lot of people who say the whole altcoin thesis is the altcoin industry is dead, they're looking at like altcoins as a whole, as an entire asset class. And like, you still have Cardano in that grouping. You have, you know, I don't know, we could go down the line, all these dead L1s and L2s that like literally had crazy bloat and they have no revenue and there's no one on chain, and they get grouped in that asset class. It's like, yeah, of course, if you factor 100 of those into the altcoin asset class, it's going to look really bad. But if you select a handful of basket of like, I also don't think you need to be a rocket scientist to figure out what the good ones are. Like there's 5 or 6, and if you log on X, you're going to see all the, you know, all the people you know and respect talking about the same ones. And you can pretty easily decipher like which of those are real and which are smoke. And some are based on fundamental values. Some are based on like, you know, more kind of like ephemeral metrics. But like, I think it's pretty clear to choose which ones. And I want to be on the fastest horse. And like, yes, I'm banking on my ability to think I have an edge in like being directionally right more than 50% of the time. But I've been doing this for a long time, and I've found that I have been directionally correct at least 50% of the time. And therefore, I want to be on the fastest horse when we go back up. So
that makes sense. Yeah.
To me, I don't think
Speaking
it's
of
that
the fastest
controversial.
horse,
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I want to say, speaking of the fastest horse, this horse has been absolutely blistering out of the gate. I want to talk to you about this trade here. An absolute monster. What did you see here that led you to go in so hard at the lows? And how did you have the balls, let's say, just to ride up this massive high on such a massive P&L? Talk me through this trade here.
Yeah, I mean, look, obviously this is like I almost didn't want to put it on the article because it was still at like, I don't know, 8 million market cap or something when I posted, and I was like, I don't want to be the type of person that, I'm not like pump and dumping meme coins or anything, right? Like that's not what my aim here was, but I have to acknowledge like there's something very, very unique about this, because to me, I just saw, and look, I could still be wrong. Like we're going to have to see what plays out here, but I'm just fascinated by like how this hits the total left curve and total right curve in terms of like what you look for in these types of assets. A lot of people in the trading world, like they like to clown on meme coins and say like, okay, they're, you know, it's like there's like a stigma to it. Like people who trade meme coins are not serious traders, but it's like when the market goes up, those are clearly, again, the fastest horse, right? If you're in the right things, like this is proven that they outperform. It's what the people want. Now I look at something like this, and I think like with the entire RWA narrative, tokenized equities boom that's happening, that Robinhood is making a big push on. Vlad is a major focus of Robinhood and Robinhood crypto is that this to me is like, you know, a very, very interesting concept where first off, on the left side, it's like, it's a dog coin. People love that. It's the AI, you know, the ticker AI. It's an artificial, it's like a robot dog. That's funny. But that's probably, maybe say that's 80% of your buyers are going to be based on that. And then you start to look at like the liquidity mechanics behind all this, and it's fascinating. Like basically this guy, Nate, who runs this this long XYZ launchpad protocol, he started backing meme coins with like paired to tokenized equities. So AI is backed by NVIDIA, and they've got these crazy mechanics where basically like all the volume in itself is a flywheel, because 50% of all the transaction fees go towards buying back and burning the AI token. 50% go towards buying NVIDIA, tokenized equity NVIDIA on chain. And at this point, this AI token, like the treasury of this token, holds like 20% of the total supply of tokenized NVIDIA on chain, which is actually like crazy if you think about that, right? Like 20% of all tokenized NVIDIA on chain, which, extrapolate that out, this is a major push of Robinhood. Like they want tokenized equities to boom, and they're trying to find ways to mint more equity on chain so that this can become an entire like, booming ecosystem. And this is pre-positioned as having the ability to be one of the, if not the single largest holder of tokenized NVIDIA, which is, like your main proxy to the AI trade right now. So I could talk about it more. I'll stop there, because it's like, it's a lot. To me, like I just found it to be a fascinating confluence of like really dumb, funny meme. And then wait, the more you learn about it, the liquidity mechanics behind this are actually fascinating. And the more NVIDIA stock they get, the more liquid the token becomes, and it helps add RWAs to the system. I think it's crazy. I think it's really cool. I think we haven't seen a paradigm like this in crypto before. This is a new meta, and being early to new metas is typically the most asymmetric reward you can get. And we've seen that happen time and time again. I think this is one of the most fascinating metas we've ever seen in crypto.
Super interesting.
So that's my take in a nutshell.
It's a fantastic take. Now, is this a long-term hold for you?
I mean, look, at a certain point, when you're trading speculatory assets, like could it go to zero over the long-term time horizon? Sure. But like a lot of people are going to make that argument. It's like, okay, WIF went down 99% eventually, but it went to 5 billion FDV before that happened. So am I going to hold it forever? No, but I have no plans to sell it. I would honestly, thinking about the upside of this trade, I would way rather hold this to zero, like to hard zero, than to sell right now, when I think the potential for multiples is like a 10, 20, 30x. I'm just not going to touch it. So
I did want to query about this very quickly, because obviously this coin has done incredibly well over on Robinhood, and we're seeing similar things happening with New Lie and with even Blue Chip on base. Why has Solana failed to incubate a massive meme coin paired to a stock like this? Obviously, we've seen a lot of attempts. There's a lot of coins that are paired with stocks, but none of them have quite captured that same level of animal spirits on Solana. Do you think there's a difference between EVM traders and Solana traders that have stopped that from happening? Why do you think we're still lacking there?
Yeah, that's a good question. Look, I don't like I love Solana. I think it is, to me, it's by far the most performant like blockchain that we have. I think it's the best place to really do anything. The problem with that is there's such little latency, there's such little friction that it's enabled crazy tools to be like created. And like the downside of that is like you have all these issues with like on new pairs. Anytime a token is launched, you've got these things get bundled where certain wallets have 90% of the supply of the token, and they can mask them and spread them across hundreds of wallets. And so like it's like obviously technological improvements to the chain are a good thing for like their ability to add whatever doesn't exist now that can be in the future. But right now it's a real problem, because it's just like it's hard for those tokens to break out of the early supply control that's basically in like predatory hands. And so you're going to need like a crazy influx of like a narrative that drives a ton of volume to basically outlast the initial 2 weeks of the lifespan of the coin, because it's just impossible right now. But for those who say like, oh, because of this, like Solana is a bad chain, like, no, it's actually the opposite. Solana is incredible. And that's why these problems exist. I think one day they will find a way to solve them, or something that's just, ultimately it's like, is the right thing going to come along and it'll be able to outlast that. But I think right now Robinhood is the place where the RWA meta does make sense. I chose the top asset that fits the narrative. And yes, it helps that some of those issues don't exist because it's a newer chain and some of the problems, some of the tooling hasn't been, fully fleshed out yet.
Makes sense. Makes sense. I think it's one of the more kind of repeated answers we hear is that Solana is just so developed at this stage that a lot of these, emerging chains, they don't have that tooling set in place just yet. But listen, Swizzle, there's a reason we brought you here. What's the trade today? If you're, stepping on chain and you're looking to bid something, whether that's Bitcoin or Sol or Lit or Hype, where would someone go? What's the trade you're going to pitch us today on the trading floor?
I'll say, I'll break it into two. I'll say if you're looking at majors, I think Pump or Lighter are great bets. And Zeke, all the ones I put in my article, Pump, Lighter, Zcash. I would say Lighter is still pretty slept on, I think, in terms of like, where there's smoke, there's fire. There's a lot going on that's really positive about that asset. And I know it looks like it's pumped a lot, but if you look at some of the comparables to Hype and you look what's going on with the Robinhood integration, like this stuff is very real. It spiked a little bit as a catalyst, but like the actual like implementation is going to be incredibly bullish. And I think like, they're legitimately paired with like the leading retail ecosystem. And so I think there's a lot of room left for Lighter. So I think that's a really still slept on trade, not talked about enough. If you want to go more degen and you want to talk trenches, I think prepare for it to go to zero because I could be wrong, but the opportunity for true asymmetric upside, I would look at this AI token on the Robinhood chain. It's just something that's never been done before. And it's the leader in the meta. I think there's a world where if I didn't have any exposure to it right now, I would have no problem blasting 6 figures into that. And I still might add more. I don't think I'm done adding. But yeah, I don't like to tell people what to buy because I think it's, you got to make it your own opinions. You got to come up with your own thesis and it's your money to make your own decisions with. But that's the stuff I'd be looking at.
I like it. I like it. I think that's a really good list. And I feel like we've heard a lot about a lot of these tokens, but I actually don't know that much about Lighter. So they've got the Lit token. It is tradable on Solana, but do you want to kind of dive into your thesis there a little bit more? I know you said they're integrating with Robinhood a little bit more, but I feel like I need to do my due diligence here and see what's going on with it.
Yeah, the short answer is like it's the chosen partner for perps for Robinhood, but overall it's like it's pretty much established itself right now to be the number 2 on-chain DEX for perpetuals behind Hyperliquid. Obviously, they've done a bunch of really interesting integrations because their builder codes are easy to tap into. So outside of Robinhood, they've got to deal with Telegram that they are implementing stuff. There's a few more other partnerships they've done. And ultimately, like for me, it was like I went on, you hear about these things. I actually went on and used the product after months of ignoring it and just hearing about Lighter. And I was like, damn, this is really good. There's a few people who've written some long form stuff. I would encourage you could go back and look at if you guys know who Jez is. Like Jez wrote something months ago that kind of explained the more technical differences between how the stack works for how trading perps on Hyperliquid works versus Lighter. So they definitely take a different approach. I'm probably not the best person to like go into a deep technical analysis on it. But it's a really good product, like a legitimately good product. And if you just look at their like the metrics in terms of how much transaction volume they're doing, like the comparison to Hyperliquid is like the difference between market caps and the difference between market share are just not logical right now. So I think based on that alone, obviously crypto doesn't always trade on a fundamentally driven basis, but like Lighter has a lot of room to run to get back to a point where you would say, okay, like this is fundamentally a rational comparison now. It's just kind of criminally undervalued in terms of what it actually is. And usually you see the opposite. Usually when an asset's been running hot, you look and you're like, okay, I could trade this for momentum, but like on a fundamental basis, it's way out of whack. And Lighter's the opposite. I think it's like really, really undervalued. And it's only growing. Like people are using it more. And this is not even factoring in the Robinhood integration yet. Like they haven't seen the bulk of that volume that's to come. And I think I heard, I can't confirm this. I heard it's gonna be like a 50-50 rev share with Robinhood. And so I just think there's like so much room, so much potential for it to open up. And ultimately there's room for more than one player in the perps game. It's a very big market, and Hyperliquid's going to do great. It's an unbelievable product, but right now I kind of look at like what's more asymmetric, and like there's a lot of room for this number 2 asset to grow. And it's not like it's a bad product. It's legitimately good. So that's kind of my case for Lighter. And I think people are going to start talking about it more over the next couple months here.
Yeah, the chart's looking good.
Okay, I do want to kind of try and pick a hole in this, because we know that Robinhood Chain has come out and they're also incubating Arcus, another perp sticks. Do you think that in the vision of capturing the Robinhood user base, do you think that Lighter and Arcus can coexist, or do you think that there's going to be one winner in that battle?
That's a great question. I don't know a ton about Arcus. I haven't been on the platform, so I can't really speak to it. I think there's definitely room for. Does Arcus have a token, by the way, or no?
No, not yet. It's early stages, so the farmers are out in full force.
Right. So yeah, I think you'll often see stuff like that happen, and maybe Arcus will will vamp a lot of activity because people are going to be farming and hunting activity. So maybe there's something there'll be a short-term shift. But the way I look at this, and you could look at like what's happened with FOMO and Pump Fund on the social trading aspect, like. There's short-term games and long-term games, and like short-term, there's a lot of tactics to pull users away and get traders to use your platform. At the end of the day, though, the best platforms are going to win. Like people are going to go back to the place that they want to trade. And so, when it comes to like the picks and shovels, the infrastructure products, I try not to get too distracted by like the short-term noise. That's not a negative statement on Arcus, because I don't know them at all. They could be great, and maybe that's. Maybe that's something that comes up down the line. And, if that's the case, I'll change my positioning. But as of right now, I think Lighter just has so much momentum and on a pretty big scale too. When you look at everything that's going on, like they've established themselves now, they're well funded, they're making revenue. There's a really, they have really good tokenomics. That's the other thing. One of the other issues with Solana is it's always been this recurring issue about the inflation schedule. And so I think investors are starting to get smarter, and they're looking at like the tokenomics that exist, not just like the overall nature of what's happening on a chain or on a platform, but with the 50% buybacks and everything. Like Lighter has the tokenomics that are really good. They have good business metrics, a growing business, a loyal user base. Like I think they're going to be in a really good spot regardless of what happens with other competitors. But you also want to see competitors, right? Because that makes like if there's a lot of competitors coming in, it's a valuable place to be. And there's room for more than one winner in this. I think history will tell you that.
100%. That's a pretty interesting bet as far as lit goes, right? Because like we're seeing hype just completely crush it, right? Volumes, token looks great, but there's a lot of people that miss the hype move. Right. And if you miss the hype move, a lot of people will kind of move down the line and go to the next one. And if Lit has all these integrations and the tokenomics, this seems like I'm interested. This seems like a good bet.
Yeah. And I think the funny thing is you see that happen a lot where, it's human nature. Like we chase the beta because it's like, I missed the alpha. I need to go find the move. And sometimes that can be really deceiving because the beta ends up not being as good, like it's not a good product, or it's just like not the same thing. It's like, oh, I should have just top blasted the alpha one, right? But I think in this case, it's really interesting because the biggest overhang for Hyperliquid was like the regulatory concern. Are there headwinds based around being able to operate in the US and what's going to happen there? Obviously, some of that got cleared up. And I think one of the things about Lighter is like, it is in the best spot of all of these. It has great regulatory positioning. Like they've done things from ground zero, like built things up with regulatory positioning in mind. That's why the Robinhood stuff came up. They've, I've heard they've spent a lot of time in DC working with regulators prior to product launch. So that was for like kind of front of center for them. you would have thought maybe when the Hyperliquid news came, would that be like a negative headwind for Lighter? Would we have seen a dip because they no longer have that advantage? But we saw the opposite. Like Lighter shot up actually more than Hype did over the next 48 hours. And so to me, that was a great sign of like, okay, the market values regulatory positioning, and Lighter has great regulatory positioning. So that means they have a real good shot to be in the arms race here in the US, which is going to be the biggest perpetuals market that exists if they clear that overhang. And so to me, that just speaks to what the upside on this could be.
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
something
Now,
I quite like about the alpha beta debate is that it applies very easily in meme coins, but in real functional profit generating businesses, it's a bit different, right? Because obviously, hype is the fastest, biggest horse in the race. But if lit is an asymmetric bet, then there's still value, then there's still value accrual, and things are still going to happen there. So meme coins, yes, the beta often is gonna go to zero, but there's no reason for lit to go to zero in this case, I would say.
Yeah, for sure.
yeah, that sounds good. And now you mentioned something there about how it's human nature when you see gains that you want to get them yourself. I mean, that is the FOMO app in a nutshell for me, right? I go on there, I see your P&L, but it seems like the majority of people aren't actually making money on there, right? It's debatable what those numbers actually were, but a lot of people are not making money on there. Do you have any advice to somebody that's like showing up to FOMO for the first time and seeing it? I can't even imagine what other people are feeling when they first show up and open that app and see like the top P&L. People are making millions of dollars.
Yeah.
I don't even know how they don't copy trade some of those big trades. What would be your advice to someone just that wants to get in the trenches? They heard about FOMO, they dig in, they put on their first $100,000 or whatever it is.
Yeah. And yeah, I mean, you guys have seen the metrics on like the daily active wallets explosion on FOMO. It's clearly,
huge.
there's a lot of people coming in from TikTok. It's like it's a massive retail onboarding experience. We've been talking about this for years, and it's like then it happens and everyone kind of like questions it. It's like, no, this is happening. This is what it looks like, right?
Yeah.
The downside to that is like, okay, there's a lot of new traders who don't understand what's going on. They don't know that some of these top traders have side wallets and also are trading on other wallets that aren't on FOMO. And so the first advice I would have is like you said, when they put their first $100,000 on the app, don't do that. Put a very small amount on if you're not an experienced trader. Learn the ecosystem, because like the first rule of crypto, you guys probably had this happen. I had this happen for sure. You're going to blow up and lose everything at least twice before you ever make money consistently in crypto. And the worst is you'll probably do it. You'll ride something up and round trip it to zero. Like, I think learning how the game works first. The one thing about FOMO is like, I love the app. I'm good friends with Say and Paul, they sponsor our podcast, and like they've been super, super awesome in the whole process, and they're really genuine guys. The metrics you see, like some people have thrown it as mudslinging. Oh, only 6 to 10% of FOMO traders are profitable. Yeah, like that's all of crypto though. Like that's all of anyone who day trades equities. Like most day traders are not profitable. Sports betting, same thing. Like all of these areas, like if you're zoomed in and you don't know what you're doing, the sharps are going to win, and like the retail traders are going to lose until they learn the game. And so I would say start small, learn what's actually happening, and then recognize that like 95% of tokens on the FOMO app are they're new pairs, they're vapor, they're like pure like speculation meme coins. And like going back to the Solana stuff with like the infrastructure, there's also a lot of tooling where it's like I know this because I've like seen everything happen, but I can pretty much guarantee that 95% of the tokens are going to go down 90% after their first run up, and then you'll see if they have a chance to go up after that. So like very experienced momentum traders, which is a very small category of people, 1% or less of traders, the ones you see with a lot of the big gains, it's like they might successfully momentum trade the first run up of a coin. But like that's so hard to do in time, because they have like, not only do they have tooling to help them with that, but a lot of it is intuition that you can't teach or buy. It's like it comes over years of experience. And so I would say like start small, learn the ropes, and it is really fun. And I think people can do it. Like, but if you go on there expecting it to be your income, you're probably going to get rinsed. So start using it as an entertainment value. And if you find you have an affinity for it, then really you have to learn, because there's some people who spend 16 hours a day and this is all they do, and they're professionals. And so you're not going to beat a professional who's spent 50,000 hours more than you doing what they're doing. But it doesn't mean you can't make money and you can't be profitable. You just have to like learn to be patient and have discipline, because the app is named perfectly. It induces FOMO when you see those crazy numbers on the leaderboard. The one thing I do want to say about that is, like, we've only had like 1 or 2 weeks of good price action. We're in like the depths of a bear market. Can you guys imagine what the FOMO leaderboard is about to look like if we were to really, be fortunate enough to hit a bull market?
It's going to be
It'd
insane.
be crazy.
It's going to be absolutely insane. I'm not ready for it.
I hope we get to see it. It'd be the craziest, retail onboarding event we've ever seen. But then we got to try to help educate these young people who are coming in, because, I've been in their shoes and I lost money at the start, and I would love to. That's why we do the Risk On podcast. Like, our whole MO is like, we're just an unfiltered voice. We don't take, we're not like promoting specific tokens or doing anything like that. We're just like giving them real unfiltered stories about, like, the dumb shit we've done, the times we've gotten lucky and then thought we were good at stuff. And then, like, we keep a tap on the market and we try to tell people what's really going on. So, like, you'll never hear most of these different podcasts with sponsors talk about like the damaging effects of like what Axiom traders, do to the markets. Like, we're very raw and unfiltered about this is exactly what's happening, and so that's our goal, is just to try to help people.
That's a good service to people out there, right? Because I feel like it's hard to look at the markets. It's hard to look at the FOMO app and not FOMO in, right? Where you need to actually hear some good commentary about the people that are actually in the trenches and making these trades. So I think you're doing a great service to the market. So thank you for that.
Yeah.
Cool.
Indeed. Parting advice from Swizzle was start small, learn how it works, and then that's when you can start, turning up the dial a wee bit. Swizzle, it's been absolutely delightful having you on. Thank you so much for joining us. If people want to learn more about you, or they want to learn more about the Risk On pod, where can they go to find out about that?
So yeah, we go to the Risk On podcast on X, on Twitter. We've got socials there. We announce every time we got shows. We're on live on X. We broadcast Tuesdays and Fridays, 12 p.m. Eastern. You can also join the Risk On community Telegram chat. We just started that up a couple weeks ago. But we're fielding questions from the community every time we go on air for the last 10, 20 minutes of the show. We're really just trying to provide a service to everyone. And we also just say a bunch of dumb shit on there, and we don't really take ourselves too seriously. So it'll, you'll hear some stuff that'll hopefully help you, and then you'll just hear us blabber for an hour, and it's a good time. So yeah, come join us on the Risk On pod.
Hell yeah. Well, we'll be watching along on your FOMO. I hope that you keep crushing this market. Hope to see some more green candles out there, and we really appreciate you coming on.
Sounds good. Thanks, guys. I appreciate you.
Thanks, Swizzle.
Oh,
more
unreal.
alpha. We've got two very good trades to dive into, Mr. Bahamas. What's your biggest takeaway though from having Swizzle on? Obviously, someone who plays both sides of the market very well, plays majors well, plays meme coins pretty well. What's your biggest learning from that?
Yeah, I mean, I read his article again before he came on, and like to be well positioned before the move, it's just so hard to do, right? And he absolutely nailed that. And I kind of feel the same way as, I really felt like when he was talking about where he is in the market, he's like, I didn't quite sell. I thought I should maybe take some profit, but I'm actually, up a little bit. So I'm willing to withstand some volatility. I kind of feel the same way, right? Where, it's not necessarily, 100% that it's going to go up. It's not 100% that it's going to go down. We should be prepared for both ways. But I also, I lean towards things are going up. So for him to kind of say that, like, really, really stuck with me. What about you?
Yeah, I agree. I think the most important thing to take away there is that you need to still be patient. While it's very exciting and encouraging that we get a 20% move on Bitcoin in a week, these markets play out over months, they play out over years. It's foolish in a sense to rush in because you feel FOMO in the moment. And sometimes you do just need to sit on your hand. Not trading is also a position, and you need to wait for the market to come to you in many respects. So speaking of, obviously this wonderful move has put our portfolios in a very, very healthy, handsome position. Thomas, you're kicking my butt here. You're up 10% on the race. What was the biggest move for you here, and how have you managed to outperform me so badly? Or so
Yeah,
well,
I mean, I think primarily it's Zcash, right? Because I have quite a bit. I like it's like 35% of my portfolio is Zcash at this point, which I like, right? I'm in this position where I think it got up to 850 or so. It's down in the 770 area, but I mean, I'm holding my Zcash long. I'm zottling, and I mean, all of these coins, like he mentioned, Swizzle mentioned there's like 5 coins that everybody's kind of bullish on, and it's kind of interesting that CT is all kind of like collectively in the green on certain coins, right? And that's Zcash, Pump, Hype. That's like there's not that many coins that people are bullish on, and the ones that they are bullish on, we're holding and they hit, right? So, I mean, obviously, we like to see that. I do want to talk about the rest of my portfolio. I feel like I kind of want to concentrate in the winners moving forward. I also realized like I'm not really holding any Soul. It's like my personal portfolio. I hold Soul. Like we work in the Solana ecosystem, and incredibly bullish on it. So I do want to kind of add some of that. So we'll end up tweaking this portfolio a little bit. But I mean, the runners, I mean, a pretty concentrated Zcash portfolio, and Zcash, ripped. I think what's my average price? 495. So up 56% on that. I mean, we can't complain about that one little bit. But I mean, you're also up as well, right? We're both in the green. Your portfolio is looking pretty good as well, right?
Yeah, I think you benefited from going in hard on Zcash, where I probably could have gone a wee bit harder. Like I actually got a better entry price than you because I, set my limits and waited for the market to come for me. But you had a higher conviction. You allocated more of your portfolio there, and you ended up winning. You also had a great run on Pump here as well. So
Yeah.
curious to hear your opinion on, first of all, Alex's pitch for Pump, based on Nansen AI's data and information. Given the Pump, given how far are you up in this position, and given that we've still got so many people saying they're bullish on it, are you looking to add to Pump here, or are you looking to take some off the table?
I would add. I'm gonna add some Pump. I think that it's just such a good proxy bid for the memes, right? Like I just don't think it goes away. I think they just announced that they're going live on Hyperliquid, whatever their Hyper EVM. And I mean, it's just too good of a flywheel that's going on. I can complain about buying a couple Solana Pump tokens that went to zero, but at the end of the day, right? Like they're a fantastic business, one of the top teams in all of crypto. So I want to concentrate in that. I still think, say we don't hit a bull market right away, right? I still think that we're going to continue to see the revenue come from them, right? We saw in the depths of the bear market, they were still making so much revenue. People people are getting smart to the tokenomics. They're looking at the numbers, and the numbers have always been really good for Pump. We were talking about this when I think you were specifically talking about this when Pump was towards its lows. You were saying like people need to be buying Pump. Look at this token. Look at all the buybacks that they've dedicated to it. I just think that they're in the right place at the right time, and I think that it's only going up.
Yeah, the buybacks thing is funny, right? Because people have been saying for so long that buybacks don't work. And I was taking the other argument. I was saying, look, Pump is just pouring millions into buybacks at incredibly cheap prices. They're buying and burning all these tokens off the market. And when the moment comes when people want to buy Pump, they're going to realize that there's no tokens left because Pump's already burned them all. Um, that said, Pump obviously has been on an absolute tear. I'm still hesitant to add to it. So, first of all, do you want to bring up your JTX console and then kind of talk me through how you're rebalancing your portfolio, what you're taking money out of, where you're going to reallocate funds to, and you want to kind of walk me through your portfolio construction right now.
Yeah. So let's do this. Let's see. You see my screen?
I believe I am. I'm seeing
Okay.
lit. Maybe that's my
Lit.
screen.
Yeah. So I need to get off of lit, I guess. First of all, let's get over to Pump. So this is in JTX, and shout out to JTX, the new light in the background. Fantastic. But let's talk about Pump. Okay. So first of all, I feel like my portfolio in general, like I guess we could go to perp.so to show this. Um, so I feel like my portfolio in general, like I do kind of want to concentrate things in things that I'm more bullish on in the short term. So I'm gonna make some changes here, and this might not be like the most popular of moves because I think that when I was looking at this, I kind of don't want to be in all of these coins right now. I think that I'm underallocated to both Solana and Bitcoin, um, and I want to add a little Pump is what it comes down to. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to cut Bonk, Ore, and Lily.
Cutting
You know,
ore. Interesting.
yeah, I'm a huge fan of Ore. I just it caught a little bit of a pump, right? I think we're up. It's not showing where I bought, but I mean, I think we're up there.
You're up 35% in ore. It's telling me.
Yeah, so I think 35%. I think that is good. I like Ore. I think that it's going to do well. There's a potential that the store value catches. But I just think that too many of their pumps get sold off. So I am actually going to sell this Ore. Let's see. And I think that part of why I wanted to go over this and go over portfolio construction a little bit is because, like, first of all, I'm running low on USDC, right? So I think I had about $36 left in USDC. So I want to be allocated in the case that there is a bull market, right? And I want to be allocated to things that are moving. I want to be in the top movers. I think right now is the time to be in strong coins that have the narrative. And you know, I think that Ore kind of plays more of a beta. I think we might have talked about this last week, but where, okay, Solana goes up, so Ore should go up. It's like, okay, well, or I could just actually own Solana. And I could even add a little bit of leverage on Solana if that's what I think that this is getting. Like, I think the core asset of Solana has a lot of headwinds, right? I think that there's going to be a lot that is going to be benefiting Solana, the token, or Sol, the token, in the short to midterm, right? We got those two SIMDs coming up. And I mean, look at all the volume on Solana, right? You know, it's not just meme coins. It's been doing really well. So I think personally, my view is, you know, I'm going to have to sell tokens in order to buy other tokens at this point. So I want to be in the movers. I want to be in the strong coins, the ones that I have the most commitment to. And I know that's a long rant, and I know that you hold Ore as well, so you might have a different view on that. But I am actually going to move this into, let's go. Ore is going to go into Bitcoin, and I know that's moving one store of value into another, but I think that Bitcoin is looking too good right here to not own more of. You know, I know, like, relative, you know, the upside might not be a 2 to 3x immediately, right? Like, all-time high wouldn't even be a 2x, but I still think that Bitcoin has the narrative right now. It's got the motion, and I am going to get some. So I'm just going to go swap straight over. I think that it was, you know, there wasn't much fees on that, so I'm going to go there. I love Bonk. Love the Bonk team, but it's not catching the moves, right? Like, I don't know what it's going to take for it to catch a little bit of motion. But I think, you know, when the rest of the market's going up and it's not catching a bid, it's not something I want to be in right now. So I'm going to sell this over to Solana. Let's go, Max. And we're only looking at like a 20-cent fee total. So I'm just gonna go ahead and rip a market order there. And last change that I want to make, and, you know, all the love to Tulip King. He gave us a great thesis. I hold a ton of Lily, you know, in my personal, you know, stock accounts, but, you know, I think this thesis might take a while to play out. You know, like, we're not investing for the 5-year future right now. You know, is 5 trillion realistic to happening? You know, maybe. But is that something that, you know, we want to be holding on a crypto show right now? I kind of think no. And I know I'm a little bit down on it right here, but I'm going to take a little bit of a L to focus into a stronger coin. So I'm going to actually sell Eli Lilly stock and move into pump. I know
there are two wolves inside you, TB. Which one are you going to
yeah, right. I know that sounds kind of weird to do.
Healthcare or memes in the future?
Yeah, I find myself being way more bullish pump in the near term. I think it has everything going for it right now, and I just think that there's a little bit, like, I maybe eventually, you know, move some profits into Lily, but right now I'm not seeing it, and we're seeing a little bit of a fee here. So it's recommending a smart fill. JTX thinks of everything. So I'm just going to go ahead and rip a smart fill. It's 64 orders. Should we rip 64 orders right now? That might be a little bit too much. Yeah.
You're the chef, Thomas. You decide. JTX knows best.
JTX knows best. Let's rip it. 32. There we go. And we're going in. So now we've got a more concentrated portfolio where I like this better. And, you know, you'll see on the screen here, we're smart filling as we go. Let's see. We'll go into pump so it shows buys. Yeah. And honestly, like the smart fills, I don't know why more people aren't doing this on meme coins. Like you don't have to full stack dump things like people do all day long in the trenches. Like you could just gently make that move happen. And here we're doing 32 transactions to get the best price, you know, each, what is it, 0.8 seconds. So I think that's a fantastic feature. I like that. And I am liking my portfolio here. So where this leaves me with just under $400 of Zcash. I still think Zcash is going to be one of the strongest coins moving forward, even though it is, you know, having a little bit of a dip here. I'm comfortable with it. And the next, you know, strongest coin that I think is Pump. So that's right around 270. In there, we're still up $70 in this, you know, where we're at. Could I put, you know, a stop loss on Pump because I don't really want to get below that entry? Yeah, and I'm gonna do that. So let's say what average entry is right around 3-4. I could do, yeah. So let's say I don't want to lose more than what I've put in on my Pump. You know, am I willing to sustain a 20% drop on Pump because I think that this is going to be, you know, one of the strongest coins moving forward? Yes. I'm actually going to go down to, what is that? 3.5. We're going to go down a little bit more. We're going to go down 25% just in case. And if we do, we sell to dollars. So I think that this aligns with what I want. Put a little stop loss there. Triggers 25% away. Yep. So now I'm comfortable with this. Strongest Zcash, second Pump, then Bitcoin. You know, I just think that all signs point towards Bitcoin going up, and I want to stack more Bitcoin. I still like Hood. You know, Hood. There isn't a coin for Robinhood, and let me know if I'm rambling here, Finn. I feel like I've been going on for a while, but this is like what I've been thinking about for the last week is like I don't want to adjust my portfolio when we're not on stream. It kind of feels like cheating. So I want to do this all while we're on stream, if that's all right.
I think this is the time and the place to do it. So you know,
Okay.
yeah,
Okay.
get all the execution done through
Yeah.
on stream. Yeah.
Yep. And so Hood, I mean, Robinhood chain's doing good, but also like the Robinhood platform is just going to take over all of TradFi, and now it's moving into crypto. Like it's going to crush. It's doing well. I'm fine holding that short, mid, and long term. Jito, yes, we're going to be holding Jito. It's, yeah, I mean, you know, full disclosure, we are owned by Jito, but you know, they do a lot of focus on their token. I think they just came out with some of the JTX numbers, and they're now earning more revenue out of JTX than they are, you know, based on, you know, all of what else Jito does. So, you know, I think that's going up only. I think there is a lot of focus on the token within, you know, the whole project as well. So it's a token centric project, I believe is what they called it. So very, very comfy holding Jito. Still hype is the best, best perp decks out there. I do like that lit thesis though. I mean, that's something I didn't really hear. I didn't really know that much about lighter, and I've seen people on the timeline mention it before, but I wasn't aware of, you know, like how well it's doing. So that's something that's interesting. I I think that I will actually move. I'm still sitting on $36 USDC. I might take a little position in lighter right now, just because. Let's see, there it is. Because I want to keep an eye on it. right? You know, this would be something that I don't know if this is the best way to do it, but for me, what I've always done is when I'm interested in a token and want to learn more, I usually buy it, and that leads me to research a lot more into it. So you
I
know,
also use that. I also use that play as well. I think it's good because it makes you interested. It, you know, gives you an entrance, and if it goes down, you can, you know, obviously dial in. And if you goes up without you, then at least you know you've kind of got some kind of exposure. So I'm also a big fan of that.
oh yeah, so let's do that. Yeah, it basically it forces you to keep an eye on it and dig into it a little bit more. So they brought this lighter token over a while back. I think it was through Sunrise, right?
It was indeed, yeah.
So, I mean, great liquidity on it. I'm just going to rip a market order and get $36 allocated to that. Obviously, it's not the Solana DEX that we want to be buying, the Solana perps DEX token. Maybe eventually we will be able to do that. But I mean, I think if you can get access to, you know, some of the top protocols, and I mean, once you kind of start comparing, I mean, you look at a $3 coin versus Hype, which is at what, $79 right now.
Yeah.
I think people just look at the token difference and they buy. I think a lot of people did miss out on Hype, right? First of all, to get the airdrop, you had to be pretty early. And then, you know, people were buying in like the $5-6 range. So, you know, there was a big move on Hype. Is Lighter going to take over? Probably not. But, you know, is it going to be, you know, 0.1, 0.2 of what Hype is? Potentially, right? It sounds like it's a real contender, and there's a lot going on for it. And it looks like we've got one little bit of Lily left that didn't come through. So let's see, trade history, what happened here? Or 32 transactions, maybe one of them didn't go through.
Probably just market out the rest and call it a day.
Yeah.
That.
Yep, let's do that. We're going to put that to Lily and put that to Lit as well. There we go. Okay. So that's what I wanted to go over. Hopefully that wasn't too long going over the portfolio theory here, but I think part of this is like we're getting really good information from some of the top traders here. So now we're going to be moving into a place where anytime we're buying coins, we're going to have to be selling them. So now we're going to have to be focused on, okay, what's the stronger thesis? What do I believe in? And, you know, I'm very curious to see, you know, what you come up with and what you're doing with your port.
Yes, all right. I will take the reins on the sharing for just a moment, and I'll try and be as quick as I can. So, like you, I'm going to cut Lily. I think it's a fantastic thesis that Tulipkin gave us. I think the moment has come for crypto to start shining again, and I don't want to be holding a stock that's going to be moving over perhaps 2 or 3 years while, you know, crypto's going nuts. So I'm going to cut Lily. I'm going to cut ARX as well. That's just performed quite disappointingly. So sorry, Steve, for, you know, exiting on the pitch after that, but I'm going to cut that. I'm going to trim Zcash because we're up a lot on it. And if I come over here and I look at the chart, there's a lot of clear area underneath here. You know, this could just go straight back down to this level here around 680. It could even kind of come all the way back down to this level here as well. So while I'm not going to fully exit the Zcash, I am just going to trim 50% over what I've got there. We've done well on this trade, so I want to just get those profits locked in. So I'm just going to rip a market onto that very quickly. If I pull this up here, again, I'm going to rip a market over there on that. All into
you
cash.
know what, Finn? You know what, Finn? I think you're cracking there. Do you want me to pull up my screen and walk people through these trades, or let me see?
Actually, drop that. Bring up the perp.so, and I'll just talk about what I'm doing instead.
Okay. Sounds good. Let me move over to that tab really quick. Sorry about that. There we go.
So I have cut half of my Zcash. I've exited my Lily. I'm exiting as well my ARX.
And let's see. I think we need a second to reflect that on perp.so.
Yeah.
Let's see. I think we can click into your wallet, can't we?
Yep. Cool. I have also exited ARX. Now, Lit, first of all, I like the thesis. I like Lit. I like the beta to hyperliquid idea. I think that the higher hyperliquid goes, the everything else that is a similar asset, every beta for Hyperliquid also has permission to go higher. So I'm going to do similar to you. I'm going to get a bit of lighter now. I'm going to go 5% of the portfolio on a smart fill right now, and I'm just going to set a limit a bit lower. I'm seeing a bit of a previous local top at around 2.75. So I'm just going to set a limit there at 2.75 with another 5% and let that sit in there when the time comes. What else have I got there that I might want to deal with? Hood, I'm happy to keep Hood, happy to keep Sol, happy to keep Staked or Hype. Obviously, I'm going to hold on to. Backpack, I'm going to keep for a bit longer as well. I've picked up some lit. I'm also going to add to Jito. Jito is down a wee bit on this slight cool off. I'm just going to average down into the position I have. Obviously, SolanaFloor is a subsidiary of the Jito network, and none of this is financial advice, but it has dropped down a wee bit to levels that I was a previous buy at. So I'm going to respect those. I'm going to do another 5% into JTO on a smart fill. And I think at that stage, I'm pretty happy with the overall makeup of what I've got. I love the speed with which JTX actually rips everything. And I love being able to see the order book on the side here. Beautiful UX. I think having a visual on the order books and the liquidity in the markets is a bit of a game changer for on-chain trading. So we love to see that. I'm cautious of a bit of a market drop. I'm happily allocated, like we spoke earlier. I think in moments like this, where obviously it's pumped a lot and everyone on the timeline is telling you it's going to rip even further, it's good to be allocated. It's good to have some dry powder to bid the dips. I'll be ready to do that. Something I did want to set a limit for, and this is coming from our good friend Moonship ETH over in the comments. He's saying, "Get more risky, add more memes." He says, "Get more degen, make big money, or go home." So I'm gonna honor Moonship ETH's requests. I'm going to move over to Ket. We've had Ket pitched on the show before. This has got some endurance, I think, Thomas. It's held up incredibly well over the past few months. It's obviously dropped a bunch since that first pump on the debut launch of this show, but it's not going anywhere. It hasn't died. It's hit solid bottoms at around that 5 million market cap. So I'm going to set a wee bit earlier. I'm going to drop at 6 mil market cap, so 0.006. I'm just going to drop in a bid there for $100 worth of Ket. I like the cat. Let's see it happen. I want to see the Ket do well.
Yeah,
So
I like that. I mean, it's an established meme at this point, right? And the content is just fantastic. So it's something that's holding people's attention. It seems like the chart is doing well. I personally paper handed it. Like you can see my buy up here and sell down here. So I'll probably need to revisit that. And we'll probably regret not buying it here, but I like that. I like that thesis.
Yeah. And also, as I mentioned before, I've sold half of my ZEC. I am looking to re-enter. I'm going to set another limit for another $100 worth at 6.81. If I just look at the chart, there is a nice little local top we hit there previously. I think maybe we bounce off that. My concern with ZEC is that it's pumped a whole lot off the news of this ETF listing. The ETF has a 2.5% annual management fee, and I think that's going to discourage a lot of people. So maybe the flows on that might be a bit underwhelming. So I am going to set a limit there at 680 for $50. I'm also going to drop even further to this previous lower top here at 584. If we get that, amazing. If we don't, that's too bad for me. If I actually just right click on the chart here on Zcat on JTX and hit limit buy, it actually pre-fills that over my panel on the right here. So that's also very, very cool.
What? I didn't even know that. Oh, that is awesome.
Yeah, check it out. So yeah, I'm going to do another 5% limit there. So I've got 2 limits set on Zcash. I've trimmed a bit there. If I get both of these, then that's fantastic. If I don't, I'm still allocated. So very, very happy with how that's played out.
Yeah.
Anything else there, Thomas, or are we set to wrap?
Yeah. I mean, first of all, I'm a little I feel a little disrespected about your Zcash disrespect here. I feel like this is my trade. I'm holding strong. I'm not even putting any sort of stop loss on there. I just feel like it's got the motion, and I don't know how big. I don't think the ETF is going to be that big, right? I like you mentioned, there are big fees, but I don't know. I just feel like it has everything that you want in a token right now, and I mean, it's coming out of one of the biggest bugs that scared everybody. So I like it. I think it's strong.
I agree. I think it's an incredible coin. I think it's going to do well long term. I just, at the moment, Thomas, I'm actually trailing you in the performance overall. And if I want to beat you, I can't do the same thing that you do. So I need to try and get a bit more value out of the Zcash trade. And if that means scooping, a 10% dip, then I have to do that. But look, if things change, if it ends up plateauing here and staying pretty flat, I will just chase that up and I will re-enter. And if it goes away without me, then at least I've still got a little bit. But look, happy with where the portfolios are sitting right now. Thomas, I'm going to take us through to the close here because this has been a good long stream. Chatted with Alex Svanevik from Nansen. Obviously, learned a lot about agentic trading and seeing how people who have been analyzing market data for many, many years on chain are analyzing the markets now. Then we had Swizzle, who gave us a great overview of one side of the market with the majors and then another side with the trenches. Obviously, a lot to learn there. Otherwise, if you are a budding trader or a budding investor and you've got a thesis or a setup or some ticker that you really want to tell us about, please head to perp.so. You can drop it in the community submissions and we'll bring that up on the next stream. Otherwise, if you'd like to appear on the Trading Floor show, please don't hesitate to reach out to me or Thomas, and we'll be able to get you booked on for future weeks. Thomas, thank you so much for joining me. Always a pleasure seeing you in the order books like this, and I'll catch you next week.
Thank you so much, Finn. Great episode. Talk to you next week.